welcome to another episode of the BSN Sports Podcast. Today is Friday, September 16th. Hope everybody's having a good day so far and had a good rest of their day yesterday. It is, in fact, Friday, September 16th here today. Coming off another night last night in the world of sports with a lot of baseball on. You also had a lot of football on with the Chiefs and Chargers. Chiefs get the win in that one, 27-24 over the Chargers. An interception late, overturned, all those different things. Crazy game for sure as the Chiefs, edge out a victory, scoring 13 big points in the fourth quarter. And it was a very big win for the Chiefs. But I think the big storyline coming out of last night's game was Justin Herbert. I mean, he is unbelievable. 3 touchdowns, 334 yards, was just simply phenomenal. 33 of 48. He's bright. He's got a bright future. He's got a very, very talented group around him. And, it was just a Chiefs team at home, a little bit more veteranized, a little bit, maybe better right now, given the fact that Keenan Allen was out last night. So a good win for the Chiefs, tough one for the Chargers. As they fall to 1-1, Chiefs improved to 2-0, and that got week 2 of the NFL season started. Mets also got a win last night, which seems like for the first time in forever they got a win. They did that, crushed the Pirates last night, so good for the Mets. Yankees will be back in action tonight to open up a 3-game set against the Brewers. Mets will continue their 4-game set tonight, game 2 of the 4-game set tonight against the Pirates. And, a lot to get to. So, today is, in fact, a Football Friday podcast. We got a lot to get to today. Got a lot to talk about. It's a Football Friday podcast. You know the drill. We'll get into our NFL game picks. I'll go down the list, go from every game. I'll give you who I think is going to win, why, all that good stuff, scores, all that good stuff. So NFL game picks, I'll kick it off there. Then we'll go into fantasy football, give you a preview, give you some advice for this week, get you ready for the fantasy football this week. Week 2, big week for a lot of people. Starting off 0-2 is not good in any, in the regular NFL and in fantasy. So I'll get you all the advice you need, all the players, all that stuff you might want to play, and we'll finish things off with the New York Sports Update. Quick intro as I got to get to everything because it's a lot. We got to get to a lot. There's a lot on tap. It's Friday. It's a Football Friday. Tomorrow you got college football. Tonight you got baseball. Sunday you got the NFL. An exciting time of year as we creep closer and closer and closer to October. Baseball season gets closer and closer and closer to the postseason, and it's just that time of year with a lot of exciting things going on. So with all that being said, this is the BSN Sports Podcast, and let's get into it. So we're going to start things off today with our NFL game picks. So last night, like I said, Chiefs got the win 27-24. Scoring late, big win for the Chiefs. I did predict the Chiefs to win. I said it on Wednesday. I ended up sticking with my pick. I was going to do a video yesterday, but I didn't. I ended up sticking with it. I took the Chiefs. Big reason why Keenan Allen was out, and I thought that was a big loss for the Chargers. Not that their offense was an issue. Mike Williams had a big game, 113 yards and a touchdown. Not that it was a big issue, and, Palmer also had a touchdown. Joshua Palmer, who a lot of people were picking up in fantasy, Herbert still threw for 334 yards and 3 touchdowns. I still thought Allen was still tough to see him out like that. So that was obviously tough to see. So Chiefs get the win, 27-24, close game. Mahomes plays good. It was a good game for the Chiefs. Chiefs are proving to everybody, and I get it. First game was against the Cardinals, not great. Game 2, however, Thursday night, Chargers, you are at home, but it's the Chargers. They're a very talented team. So that was a big win for the Chiefs. Kind of a big prove-it win where they're winning. Mahomes is still playing good without Tyreek Hill. And the Chiefs are doing their thing. And I think that's not really surprising. Maybe there was a little bit of doubt going into the year, but Mahomes is finding his way without Tyreek Hill. And I think that's a positive sign. It just shows you how good of a quarterback he truly is. So with that being said, let's get into the topics. Or let's get into the games, rather. This week, entering the week, I am currently 8-8. Now, with last night's win, I am 9-8 total overall in the season, but I am 1-0 this week with the pick that I got correct last night. So now I am 2-0 in Thursday night games this year, obviously picking the Bills last week and then the Chiefs again last night. So let's start things off here. We got the Saints, Buccaneers. Buccaneers head to New Orleans. Buccaneers and the Saints are both 1-0 coming into this matchup. The Bucs currently are 2.5-point favorites. Saints are the underdogs coming in at home. 1 o'clock Eastern, Fox over-under set at 44.5. And obviously the big storyline of this game is, can Tom Brady beat the Saints? He hasn't been able to do it. He's really struggled. It's something that he's really just hasn't been able to do. It's one of those things where it seems like a team finally has the answer for Tom Brady, and it is the New Orleans Saints. They're beating him all the time, at home or on the road, in the playoffs. Every year it seems Brady's just getting beat by the Saints. And now, not so much in the playoffs, but either way, still every year it seems like the Saints are crushing him in the regular season. What was it? A year ago, I think he had the big 38-3 game where Drew Brees and the Saints absolutely dominated, all that stuff. Or maybe that was last year, whatever. He's gone dominated by the Saints. That's the big storyline. Can Tom Brady finally beat the Saints in a regular season game? Can he finally be successful? Well, I'll tell you what. It's going to be tough because he's without Chris Godwin. He's unlikely to play this week. You're still going to have Mike Evans out there. Julio Jones most likely will play. You got Leonard Fournette. Your offensive line is still a big issue. And I got to admit, when you look at the Saints team, they played well last week. I mean, you got a very good performance from Michael Thomas. Obviously, Alvin Kamara is always a threat. You got a good performance from Jarvis Landry. You saw a lot of really good things. Your defense was pretty solid too. Not the best, but pretty solid. They showed us a lot of positive things last week, the Saints did. I'm actually making an audible late here. I'm going to take the Saints over Tom Brady and the Bucs to get the win. Originally, I picked the Bucs, but after just getting the update now that Godwin's unlikely to play, that's one less weapon for Brady. You saw him struggle last week with the offensive line playing the way it did. Give me the Saints at home to knock off Brady yet again. 21-17, a late touchdown to Jarvis Landry. I'm going to go out there and say Jarvis Landry maybe, or Michael Thomas, or Kamara, somebody like that. A late touchdown wins it for the Saints, 21-17, lower scoring game. Don't expect a ton of offense. Give me the Saints 21-17. I'll take the under on the over-under of 44.5, and I'll take the Saints to win this game and improve to 2-0 on the season. Game number 2 here, we got the Colts and the Jaguars. Colts coming off of a tie, so they are 0-1. Jaguars coming off a loss at the hands of the Washington Commanders. The over-under set at 45.5. Colts, obviously, the 3-point favorites. 1 Eastern CBS. Look, I really like the way the Jaguars played last week. They competed against Washington. They played very well. You saw some good things. You saw some positives. You saw things where it's like that's what Doug Peterson brings to the table. Competitive football. They might not win a ton of games this year, but they're going to be competitive. They're going to be in the games. The Colts last week, obviously, the really tough drop by Alec Pierce really hurt them. Texans came to play. They were on the road. Just really kind of a ugly game. Not a great start for the Colts. And there's concerns coming out of that game with the Colts. Like, how do they truly have enough weapons outside of Michael Pittman? You saw a lot of good things from Jonathan Taylor, which isn't surprising, but do they truly have enough weapons? And again, I like the Colts a lot. I think they're going to win a couple. I think they're going to win, 9-8 games, 9 to 10 games this year. 10 probably at most. 9. I forget my exact ceiling for them, but I had them at 9-8. I had them winning the division. They're going to bounce back. I don't think they're going to lose this game. Yes, Jacksonville played well against Washington, but I like the Colts. I like that I think they're going to come back out and they're going to play much better. I think their defense is going to take advantage of a younger quarterback in Trevor Lawrence. So let me take the Colts here. They get on the board with their first win of the season after an ugly tie last week with Rodrigo Blankenship missing some pivotal kicks. Give me the Colts, 24-14 Colts win. I think their defense plays well. I think T-Law, Trevor maybe turns it over a little too much. Colts score a little bit. Defense plays well. Give me the Colts 24-14. I'll take the under on the over-under 45.5, I should say, and I'll take the Colts 24-14. I think they cover the 3 points. Next up, we got the Lions and the Commanders. Both teams coming into this fresh off of a really, really exciting week for both teams. Washington with a close win against the Jaguars. Not an exciting week for the Lions in terms of result, but they were in that game against the Eagles. They lost by 3, 38-35. They're 0-1 coming into this game. Commanders obviously 1-0. Lions are a very, very small 1.5-point favorite coming into this game. Over-under set at 48.5, 1 Eastern on Fox. I loved what I saw last week out of the Lions. I liked what I saw out of the last week out of both these teams. I mean, Carson Wentz threw 4 touchdowns, looked eerily similar to the vintage Carson Wentz in a good way. Yes, he threw the 2 picks, but the 4 touchdowns and all those yards, I think 300-plus yards. It was a good showing from Carson Wentz. And what you saw to that Lions team last week was they took a Philadelphia team that has expectations and has hopes to make a deep run into the playoffs. They lost by 3. And I said that at the beginning of the year about this Lions team. They're going to be in every game. They're going to fight. They're going to compete. They're going to be exciting to watch. They're just going to compete. And they're going to be in almost every single game they play. And this week, against a Washington team coming off of a close victory against Jacksonville last week, I'm going to take Detroit here. It is very close. It was a tough call for me. I feel like Washington, I wouldn't be surprised if they do win. I think this is going to be, and you know how I feel, I think Carson Wentz is a very good pickup this week. I don't think they win because of Carson Wentz. I just think that this Lions team is going to make some noise and make this thing interesting. They scored 35 points last week on a good Eagles defense. They're more than capable of scoring on a Washington defense that is good, but not elite. I'm going to take the Detroit Lions here. I'm going to take Dan Campbell, that tough, hard-nosed football, DeAndre Smith, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamal Williams, 2 guys that were really big roles last week. Give me the Lions at home with a big 31-28 victory. Late field goal wins it. Yes, they don't lose on a field goal. They win on a field goal this time. I'll take the over on the over-under 40.5, and I'm going to take Detroit at home to top the Washington Commanders and get their first win of the season. Give me the Lions. We got the Ravens-Dolphins. Ravens come into this game 1-0, fresh off a victory off of my New York Jets, which was a tough game to watch. Dolphins come into this game fresh off a victory against the New England Patriots, in which their defense dominated. Ravens are 3.5-point favorites. The over-under set at 44.5, 1 Eastern on CBS. I have a big problem with this. Why is the spread 3.5? Why? This spread should at least be 6. At least. I'm taking Baltimore all day. I still have not had full trust in this offense from Tua. And you know that the Ravens are a better offensive team. They're going to bring a lot more offensively than what New England brought to the table. They have a legit offensive coordinator. They have a legit team. They have a legit offense, quarterback, all that stuff. They are a much better team than New England. Why is the spread only 3.5? At home, home opener, defense showed out last week against the Jets. Not saying that, Tua is better than obviously Flacco, but, or at least I think he is. I don't know. Is he? I'm going to take Baltimore here. Look, they're at home. They're getting healthier. That's another thing too. Like they might have Dobbins back for this game. There's a very possible chance that you get, guys like Marcus Peters and pieces like that back. They weren't even fully healthy last week. I know that the Jets defense played really, really well against them, and they fought very hard against them, but they were missing some pieces, and, Dobbins was a big piece that they were missing because that completely opens up the run game. I'm going to take Baltimore here. I think it's not I don't think they're going to have a complete blowout. I think it's going to be more than 3 points. Baltimore wins 21-13. Give me Baltimore 21-13. I think they'll start off, firing on all cylinders, and I think, maybe they'll slow down a little bit late just because I think, home crowd, all that stuff. Give me Baltimore 21-13. I'll take the under on the over-under 44.5. Baltimore wins covering the 3.5 points. Now we move on to the Steelers-Patriots here. Patriots open up, 0-1 here, and the Steelers, after fresh off a victory last week on the road in Cincinnati in overtime, 1-0 on the season. Patriots are a very slim 2-point favorite. And the over-under set at 40.5, 1 Eastern CBS. Big storyline in this game, no TJ Watt. He's on the IR. He's going to be out for about 6 weeks, which is a good thing considering what it could have been. You obviously don't want any injuries. But coming out of that game, out of the Cincinnati game, the initial thoughts were he tore his pec, which would have completely ended his season. That's not the case. He will be back. Maybe week 6 or something like that is when he's targeting. So he'll be missing about 5 weeks. That's a big loss for them. I do like Pittsburgh in this game, though. I think you're going to have a fired-up, energized crowd. I don't care if it's Armcorp Stadium. I'm calling it Heinz Field, okay? At Heinz Field, fired-up crowd, energized, home opener coming fresh off a victory on the road against a division rival in Cincinnati, a team that went to the Super Bowl last year. Even though TJ Watt played a big role in last week's game and still plays a very big role, look at the New England offense. Look at it. It's terrible. They showed no positives last week. Mac Jones looked terrible. The offensive coordinators are like all over the place. What is it? Joe Judge and Matt Patricia. What is New England doing right now? What are they doing? Give me the Steelers, Mitch Trubisky, the defense, plus 2 points at home. If you're putting money on this, I would. That's a great bet to me, because what I see a very good defense against an offense that looked lost that week, and I see a team that just caught fresh off a win against a rival, and they're going to be packed house. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be high energy. Give me the Steelers at home to improve to 2-0 on the season, and Mike Tomlin's team's going to be riding high. Steelers win. Low-scoring game. Steelers win 17-13. Steelers win. Late touchdown by Trubisky. I like what the Steelers bring to the defense. I think Jones is going to have a couple turnovers. Give me the Steelers 17-13. I'll take the under on the over-under 43.5, and then the Steelers cover the 2 point. Actually, Steelers plus 2. 17-13, Steelers win. All right, so now we go to the 4 o'clock games here. 4:05 on Fox. You got the Rams and the Falcons. Rams are 10-point favorites. Over-under set at 46.5. Both teams coming into this game 0-1. Obviously, Falcons coming off the really tough loss against the Saints, and the Rams coming off the tough loss against Buffalo. Look, you could sit here and say, or is the Rams going to struggle? Look, they're going to beat the Falcons. Okay, I don't care. I'm not going to go too in depth on this one. They're going to beat Atlanta. They're going to beat it. They're going to beat them pretty badly. I know Atlanta played well last week against New Orleans. You're talking about a completely different team here. You're on the road. Give me the Rams all the way. Okay, the Rams are not going to, or the Falcons are not going to win this game. They're not. They're just not. You could sit here and say, they competed against New Orleans. And I know I have New Orleans beating Tampa Bay, but New Orleans isn't the Rams. And I know that the Rams lost and looked bad week 1, but they're playing Buffalo. Buffalo's legit. Buffalo's a good team. People have to realize that too. Just because they got crushed week 1 doesn't mean they're a bad team. Well, they lost to a really, really good team. Rams at home, frustrated off a loss. You got smoked on Thursday night. You got embarrassed. Stafford looked bad. They're going to toast them. Bad defense on the Falcons. Offense isn't much. They're going to dominate. Rams win this game 31-10. On to the next, cover the 10. Under on the over-under of 46.5. They cover the 10 points. On to the next game. I think it's going to be a blowout. Seahawks, Niners. Niners coming into this 0-1 after the rainy game in Chicago as they lost. And the Seahawks fresh off a big victory against Denver in which they beat Russell Wilson in his return to Seattle. Niners are big 8.5-point favorites. Over-under set at 40, 4:05 on Fox. I think you're going to get a very, very interesting. You can look at this game as, to pick the game 2 different angles. Number 1, you could say Niners are going to be fired up, ready to go, and the Seahawks are going to be caught on a hangover, and they're going to kind of get caught, not fully prepared, celebrating the win, all that stuff. Or this game could go where Geno Smith balls out again, he's legit, and the Niners lose. And last week, from what we saw out of the Niners, was maybe what we're going to see out of this offense under Trey Lance. That's how this game's going to go. No other way, I don't think. I think this game's going to be very interesting. I think the spread is very odd because there's 2 very likely scenarios. If last week's and again, I think it's the weather and all that stuff, but if last week's what you're going to get out of this team under Trey Lance at quarterback, that's really concerning. And if last week's what you're going to get out of Geno Smith every week, well, watch out. Seahawks are coming in the NFC West. Very interesting game. Very odd spread. It's a big spread considering a team just knocked off what many think is a legit playoff contender. I don't think Denver's making the playoffs out of the AFC West, but many do. This is an interesting game. It's a tough one to pick because do you go with Geno or do you go with Trey Lance and the Niners turning it around? I'm going to go with Trey Lance and the Niners turning around, but I don't think they cover. I don't think they cover the 8.5. I do think they win, but they don't cover. 28-24. Niners win. Lance plays well. Warm weather, normal weather, not rainy. I haven't checked the forecast. I assume it's good weather. I assume it's going to be good weather. I don't expect it to rain. Light rain, actually. So light rain. So if it's pouring, give me the Seahawks because the Niners can't play in the rain. But either way, back home, it's not going to be downpouring. So what if there's a little light rain? Look, I don't think last week's what you're going to see out of this Niner team all the time. I think a lot of it was the weather. Give me the Niners 28-24. They win, but don't cover. Niners win 28-24. I'll take the over on the over-under 40.5. And Niners win, but don't cover the 8.5. All right, so now we go to 4:25 p.m. Eastern on CBS. You got the Bengals and the Cowboys. Bengals 7-point favorites. Over-under set at 42. Both teams come into this one 0-1. Look, it's going to be the Bengals. If this would have been a very good game if Dak was playing, but Dak's hurt. It's most likely going to be Cooper Rush. You know Joe Burrow and this Bengals team is chomping at the bit to get back out there, considering what took place last week with the missed field goals, the 5 turnovers by Burrow, 4 in the air, 1 with the fumble. This team's energized. This team's furious about how last week went, losing to a division rival week 1, losing a game in which you had an opportunity to win it in regulation. They missed the kick, bad snap, all the stuff, laces towards the kicker, all that stuff. This Bengals team's going to come out energized, ready to go. And I look at this as you have a team that's furious of how last week went, and you also had a team that just got the wind and energy sucked right out of them with their starting quarterback going down until at least week 8, week 9. That's how I see this game. So I think it's the Bengals. I think they're going to win big. I think they cover the 7 points. It's Cooper Rush, not very good. They couldn't move the ball last week with Dak. They're not going to move the ball with Cooper Rush. I don't care who's around him. I don't care what you say. Give me the Bengals, 31-13. Bengals win big. It's going to be an angry Bengals team, and it's going to be a Cowboys team that's kind of upset. Energy might be low, kind of got just sucked right out of them after losing their starting quarterback for a very, very long period of time. Give me the Bengals, 31-13. I'll take the over on the over-under 42. Bengals cover the 7 very easily. All right, so 2 more games here on the 4 o'clock slate. Then we'll head to 8 o'clock and in the Giants and the Jets games. Raiders-Cardinals here, 4:25 Eastern, CBS. 5-point favorites are the Raiders. Over-under set at 51.5. Raiders coming off a tough loss against the Chargers. Cardinals coming off of a blowout loss at home against the Chiefs. And look, this is one of these games, too, where you know how I feel about Arizona. You looked at them last week. They were ugly without DeAndre Hopkins. Defense was terrible. It was brutal. At home, nonetheless. Home opener, they just came out and just laid a dud. The Raiders played well. Derek Carr found his connection with Devontae Adams. The way I look at this game, I look at it as you have a Cardinals team that looked flat last week is probably going to look flat until they get Hopkins back. And at that point, they might be 1-5, 1-6, depending on what week 6 or whenever he's supposed to come back. And I look at this Raiders team as Hopkins and Carr got connected very well. Maybe just a little bit more talented of a football team beat them in a way at home. Raiders are going to be at home. First time Adams is in the building. It's going to be high energy. It's going to be exciting. I look at this game as similar to the last others. One team with a lot of energy and one team that just is coming off a blowout loss at home in which they couldn't do anything positive. Give me the Raiders big, 35-20. Raiders win. I think a little bit of garbage time like the Cardinals ran last week. They'll score some points late. 35-20, Raiders win big, cover the 5. Take the over on the over-under of 51.5. We got the Broncos-Texans. Russell Wilson's first game at home. Coming off of a loss, a big 10-point favorite. Over-under set at 45. Texans coming off a tie, 4:25 Eastern, CBS. This is an interesting game. Because, again, similar to the Niners and the Seahawks, you have a team coming off of a really bad loss in Denver in which their coach called a 64-yard field goal instead of going for it because they're paying their quarterback $200 million and they're sending the field goal unit out there. Ridiculous. And you have a team in the Texans that went head-to-head against a team that many people think is going to win the division in the AFC South. So what do you see? What do you see? Do you see this Texans team coming out motivated and coming off of what they build on what they did last week in terms of competing? Or do you see this Broncos team coming out being frustrated about how last week went, coming out home opener, dominating? What do you see? 2 options. What do you see? I think the Broncos are going to win this game. I just can't picture a world in which at home, that stadium's always rocky no matter what the record is. I just can't picture a world where the Broncos fall at home to the Houston Texans. Just can't picture it. Now, I don't think they cover the 10 points. I don't. Because I actually liked what I saw last week out of Houston. They play kind of an ugly but good type of football. They competed against a Colts team. It's a Broncos team that's just lost against the Seahawks. So you can't sit here and say, oh, the Broncos are a lot talented. We haven't seen that. So I'm going to take the Broncos, but they don't cover the 10. Broncos win this game 24-17. Do not cover the 10 points. They win 24-17. I'll take the under on the over-under 41.5. Broncos win, but do not cover. Give me the Broncos, but don't cover. All right, to wrap up the Sunday slate, we got an interesting Sunday night game. Very interesting. You have a Packers team coming off a terrible loss on the road against Minnesota. And you have a Bears team coming off an ugly, but it's a win against the Niners, who are heavy favorites. Where do you go? 9.5-point favorites are the Packers. Over-under set at 41.5. Sunday, 8:20 Eastern, NBC. Sunday Night Football to wrap up, hopefully, which is another good week of football. Hopefully, I'm watching the game fresh off a Jet victory, not watching the game after the Jets just lost again. I always say that. Watching Sunday Night Football is 10 times better if your team wins. 10 times better. Because even when they show their highlights before the game, it's like you see your team up there and you feel good. It's the worst watching Sunday Night Football. I mean, if Sunday Night Football, Sunday Night Football, I always still watch it. But when if the Jets lose, it's just not great. It's not great. So the Jets win. And we'll get to that in a second here. But I just don't think the Bears are going to win this game. I don't. Rodgers has dominated the Bears throughout his career. He's at home. I know they played really bad last week. I get that. I want, to picture a world to see the Bears pull off another upset. That would be funny. I just don't think I have it in them. And I don't. I just don't. Looking at this game, you could say, oh, what the Bears won, but it's just Lambeau, Aaron Rodgers. I don't care who his receivers are. He just always dominates the Bears. I don't know. I think this is going to be a blowout. I hope it's not. I hope it's a close game. I would love to see a one-score game or a tight-knit game going into the fourth. It might be ugly. I don't know. But I don't know. I think I'm going to take the Packers here. I know. 35-13 Packers win. I don't know. I just don't trust it. I just don't think the Bears are good enough. I just don't. Packers win. Take the over on the over-under 41.5, and they cover the 9.5 points. All right, so now we go to the Giants and the Jets. So we'll start with the Giants, then we'll go to the Jets. Giants open up 1-0. Panthers are 0-1. Giants are 1.5-point favorites. The over-under set at 43.5. 1 Eastern on Fox. Obviously fresh off of a very, very big win, a gutsy performance from the Giants. I got to admit, coming off that game again, I talked about it on Monday, loved what I saw out of that Giants team. Loved what I saw out of Dable. Changing the culture, being gutsy, using, all you got, calling that 2-point conversion, using the talent to your ability, Saquon Barkley, that is what you want to see out of a Giant fan, out of the Giants last week, if you were a Giant fan. Right? Go for it. Take a chance. Right? Those things are huge in games. And we saw that last week out of the Giants. And I think we'll see it again this week. I like the Giants in this game a lot. I didn't like what I saw last week out of Carolina. I know they made the comeback against the Browns. Still, though, I don't like what I saw. I know people could say, oh, well, they played better late in that game. No. I like the Giants here. I think Dable's that type of coach where he's going to have his guys ready to play. I think it's going to be a packed MetLife. I think it's going to be a lot more packed and high energized than a Jet game just because they're coming off of a big win on the road. I think fans are believing. I think fans are buying in. I think this Giant team's going to kind of, surprise us again in a way where it's like they're going to play well. Dable just seems, it seems like maybe this process for the Giants is taking a little quicker than a lot of people thought. And maybe it is. And I think, you've seen a lot of positive things out of Dable. Got to earn your playing time. He's going to take chances. That's playing to win. And I like to see that out of Dable. I think you look at this game, it's such an interesting game because, you look at the quarterbacks They're both eh. You look at the running backs, both very talented. Receiving cores both have some talent. Offensive line's all right. Defense is, better on both sides. But when you look at the I look at this game as Giants have the home field advantage. Coming off a big win, they have the coaching advantage too. Dable's better than Matt Rule. Give me the Giants. Panthers coming off a very, tough loss, game-losing field goal by Cade York. Give me the Giants. They're going to come out with their hair on fire, I think. And I think the Panthers aren't going to be ready for it. So give me the Giants, 20-13, or 20-10 actually. Giants win. I think their defense plays well. I think they cover the 1.5. Give me the Giants, 20-13. Yes, 20-13 is my score. Giants win. All right? That's what I got for the Giants. By the way, 53% of people think the Giants win this game. So a lot of people are on the Giants side. Definitely. All right, so now we go to the Jets and the Browns. Jets open up this game as 6.5-point underdogs. Obviously, the Browns are 6.5-point favorites. Browns are 1-0. Jets 0-1. Over-under set at 39. 1 Eastern CBS. That just about describes what people are expecting out of this game. It's going to be very low scoring. Neither offense is very high powering. I don't think it's going to be one of those games where it's extremely exciting in terms of just football. I think it's going to be one of those ugly, tough, gritty games where, whoever plays the better defense, whoever steps up in the big moment's going to win this game. That's how I view it. This is a huge game for the Jets. I mean, monster game for the Jets. I know it's only week 2, but you cannot go out there as Robert Saleh after the comments he made this week about the receipts and the same old Jets and all those different things. You can't go out there this week and get blown out. You got to be competitive. You have to be. You can't go out there this week, lose 31-10, 31-10, 34-10, lose by 20, lose by 2 scores, lose by more than 10 points this week, and the media is going to absolutely rip them apart. And it's going to be bad. So Jets got to come out with a lot of energy. They got to come out with a little bit of fire, a little bit of urgency. I want to see some, let's run some no huddle. Let's show a little bit of urgency. It's not time to mess around. We're in the season. It's no longer to say, no longer can you say, give it time. No, this is week 2. If you fall to 0-2, the percentage of teams that make the postseason is so low. Your season, because then if you fall to 0-3, your season's over. That's how football works. That's how the season is. That's how important week in and week out. That's how important each week is. So Jets got to come out of this game. Jets have to come out of this game with a win, I hope, with a win. But you can't come out of this game losing 31-10. You just can't. And you can't make Jacoby Brissett look like a legend, or you can't, turn the ball over 4 times. You just can't do it. You got to be smart. Got to play fundamentally sound. Got to go out there, do what you need to do. This Browns team is not incredibly talented. They're not that good. They're not. This is a winnable game. This is a very winnable game. This game is a lot more winnable than the Ravens. It is. It's really winnable. Even though you're on the road, I don't care about it being on the road. The Browns are not a good offense. You're not going to have to score 35 points to win this game. You're not going to have to worry about stopping Lamar Jackson. The Jets were up to the task last week of doing that. It's all about the offense this week. Flacco's got to play well. They got to stop Myles Garrett. They have to. You cannot let Myles Garrett have a monster game, or else Flacco's going to be getting sacked every other play. Mayfield last week got sacked 4 times against this Browns defense. You got to protect Flacco. You have to. He doesn't have that mobility. He doesn't have that ability that Zach Wilson has. He doesn't have that ability that Mike White to a certain extent has. Not nearly what Zach Wilson has, but Mike White's quicker than Flacco. All I ask is be competitive, go out there, make a statement. Go out there and win. You want to talk about receipts? All gas, no brake. Make some plays, take some risks. Go out there and win. Find a way to win. I'm tired of we competed, we fought. No. Take some chances, right? Take some chances on Brissett. Line up a man. Sauce played well. Offensively, take maybe some shots downfield. Run the ball. Establish the run. Do not pass the ball 59 times. Do not. Establish the run. Get the ball to Garrett Wilson. get the ball to Conklin. Uzama's questionable. We'll see how it goes. If he's in, get the ball to him. Spread the ball out. Balance. Play they do what this team's capable of doing. This team's talented. It's all about just coaching. That's what it is. So I think that's what the Jets got to do. As much as I want to say the Jets are going to win this game, deep down inside, I don't know. I just don't think so. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Jets win this game. Again, I think they're going to lose 20-17. I think it's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be maybe a late field goal or a late touchdown by Brissett or something like that, where maybe the defense runs out of gas late. I'm hoping. I want to be wrong. I hope that this team finds a way to win. I just haven't seen enough out of this team to do that. So, 2017 Browns wins my prediction. I do think the Jets cover the 6.5, and I hope I'm wrong again. This is my only pick I do every week. The Jets pick, unless if I pick them to win, obviously, is the only pick that I hope I'm wrong. Other than that, all the other picks, I hope I'm right. Because, I want to obviously be right. This pick, I hate picking against my own team. But again, it's truly how I feel. I mean, I would tell you this. I'm more optimistic about this game than I was last week. But if we competed last week, I would have said, all right, I'm giving the win. I just haven't seen enough out of this offense to sit here and say they're going to go win the game. I just haven't. I need to see more. So, hope I'm wrong, but we'll see. 2017, I'll take the under on the over 39. I do think the Jets do cover the 6.5, but I don't think they win. Again, hope I'm wrong, and let's go Jets. Let's see. 90% of people think the Jets are going to win. The Browns are going to win, actually. Let me see something for a second. So that's on Bleacher Report. You go to Yahoo. 83%. All right. On this predictor thingy. 83% of people think the Browns are going to win. So, a lot of people out there think the Browns are winning this game. Yeah. Hope Jets got to find a way. You got hope these people are wrong, including myself. Got to find a way to win. You got to find a way to be competitive and win this game. You win this game, you change the narrative. You're now 1-1. You go back home to play Cincinnati. Everything's all right in the world. That's how football is. That's how it is on a week in and week out basis. That's how sports are in general. So let's go Jets. All right, so my picks this week, obviously, my Jets pick there. I got the Saints winning, Colts winning, Lions winning, Ravens winning, Giants winning, Steelers winning, Rams winning, Niners winning, Bengals winning, Raiders winning, Broncos winning, and the Packers winning. So those are my picks. I'll make my Bills-Titans pick and Eagles-Vikings pick both on Monday. 2 Monday night games coming up, so those should be good on Monday night, and I will make those picks then. So that's what I got for my NFL game picks. 8-8 going into this week, 1-0 this week so far. So hoping for another good week, and we'll see how it all plays out. All right, so now let's get to the fantasy football. So all 4 of my leagues last week I obviously lost in, which wasn't good. You make 4 fantasy leagues, you're in 4 fantasy leagues, and when you lose in all 4, it's pretty ugly. It's pretty embarrassing, to be honest, but it is what it is. I'll go down the list. So in my one league I have Dak in 2 of my 4 leagues. I have Rodgers in 2 of my 4 leagues. So out of the 4 leagues, Dak and Rodgers are my quarterbacks. So in my one league, to figure out a solution, that's the biggest question. What to do with Dak Prescott being down. Now, most people probably already have their solution, but in case you're still out there wondering, if you have a backup quarterback, roll with that. Whether that's a Kirk Cousins, whether that's like a Joe Burrow, whether you're in like a deep league or a small league, or I don't know what could possibly be, or like a Stafford. I have Stafford. My 8-man league, I have Stafford, so that's a smaller league where more talent's going to be on your bench. So I'm putting Stafford in this week over Dak. He'll be my quarterback unless if Stafford continues to struggle. Some possible waiver ads. Again, Derek Carr, if you're in a league like I am. A 12-man league, Derek Carr is most likely already on your roster. So Derek Carr could be an option. Maybe Trey Lance. I love Carson Wentz this week. I do. And again, I don't think I think Wentz is going to play well this week. I think the Lions are going to win, but I don't think it's going to be because Carson Wentz is going to throw a bunch of interceptions. I just think the Lions are going to be able to find a way to score some points like they did last week. So I like Wentz a lot. Kirk Cousins is always an option. The only thing with Cousins is he's on the road against Philly, and it's Monday night. He struggles in primetime. As much as as much as people joke around about that, it's legit. I mean, he can't win a Monday Night Football game. He can't win on primetime. So those are those things you have to put into account. Carr against Arizona is a very favorable matchup, along with Wentz against Detroit. So none of those guys you can go wrong with again. And if you have a backup like a Burrow, I think he'll bounce back. If for some reason you're holding 3 quarterbacks and you're deciding between Stafford, Burrow, I'd probably go with Stafford. I just think that's maybe the safer option just because of the fact that, I think, him going up against a team like Atlanta is a very favorable matchup. Now, I like Cincinnati against Dallas, but Dallas has got a better defense. And Burrow struggled last week. Not that Stafford didn't, but Stafford was going up against, it's give or take. You really can't, trying to make that argument, you can't. It's give or take. So, whatever you think, I'm going with Stafford in my one league. In my other league, I picked up Wentz. So, whatever. If you're in a situation like I am, and you're trying to figure out whether or not to start Rodgers, I'm starting Rodgers. I think he's going to do well this week against the Bears. Now, if he struggles this week, next week you could start to have the conversation of saying, all right, should I bench him? Right now, though, I'm not going to sit here and bench him just yet. The Vikings are a good team. Last week, they were the better team. He dominates the Bears in his career. I'd expect the same there. And other than that, up and down the board, the normal. Keenan Allen was out, so I'm in my one league that I have Keenan Allen, and I'm putting in Michael Thomas. I liked what I saw last week out of Michael Thomas. I know it's against Tampa. They're a tough defense, but if Michael Thomas is maybe turning into form that he once was, can't guard Mike, that's a good possible scenario. Thielen, I just think, is a little too consistent. And again, I'm not a huge fan of starting receivers on the Vikings this week, unless if it's like a Justin Jefferson, just because of the fact that they're Monday night and Cousins tends to struggle on primetime. It's also on the road against a Philly team. And Philly's coming off a performance in which they really struggled on defense. They're going to be a little bit more motivated. They're going to be angry about how things went last week. They're going to want to turn it around. So Vikings players are riskier just because of the fact that you don't know. Thielen's very tough. He's a tough receiver to gauge. You just don't know what to expect out of him. He's going to have weeks where he puts up 30 points, and there's going to be weeks where he puts up 5. It's tough to gauge with him. He's a really inconsistent receiver, but that's just how he is. So Curtis Samuel I like too, but I think you're going to also see, a little bit. I think you're going to continue to see a lot of Gibson this week. I like Samuel. I don't mind Samuel and the Wentz combo. If you're in a situation where Allen was like your flex, I don't think that's bad. I'm putting in Thomas. I already have McLaurin. Don't want to double up with the same receivers, taking points kind of away from each other, so I'm taking Thomas. So that's it. I'm also playing David Montgomery as well. I know he only had 7 points last week, but I'm still rolling with him. I think on the road, Green Bay, tough environment. They're going to rely on the run game a lot, try to ground and pound early, set up the run, establish the run, physical in-division matchup. I like David Montgomery this week as well. I think he's going to get a lot of carries, going to get a lot of opportunities. And yeah, I'm playing Gibson this week too. So Gibson's another guy that I like. I think he's a very good running, had a very good week last week, had 20 points. It's against Detroit. Defense didn't play well last week. I think that's going to be a high-scoring game. And again, Gibson's a guy that, use what you can now. Use his value. Because once Brian Robinson comes back, which is an incredible story from, the off-the-field incident to being able to now to still be, alive right now is just a miracle. It's great to see him that he's already back out on the playing field. But once he comes back, Gibson's role's not going to completely die away or his role's not going to completely just, it's not like he's going to go from projected to 16, putting up 16 points to now putting up 2, but it is going to drop a little bit. It might not be flex caliber. So take advantage while you can. That's why I was frustrated I didn't play Gibson last week. Take advantage while you can of Gibson. And Gabriel Davis I like a lot. He's another start. Again, Tennessee, tough week last week, but Bills at home. That's a favorable matchup. Davis played really well last week. And I think, with Diggs being the primary threat, it gives you a lot of, it puts Davis in a great spot where a lot of teams' attention's on Diggs. It gives Davis many opportunities. So putting Davis in there. Landry's not a bad play. I think with the Bucs defense, though, you're going to see a lot of Mike Evans. I think you're Mike Evans, jeez. You see a lot of him, too. But Michael Thomas, I think you're going to see a lot of him just because of the fact that Winston against a tough defense is going to go to his reliable target. But that's just me there. So, other than that, same thing there. I'm playing Dobbins this week. He is questionable, and the reports are he practiced fully on Thursday. We haven't heard any update on him today. So if Dobbins is in, I'm playing Dobbins. If he's out, probably going to decide between either Michael Carter at flex, who had a very good week last week and expecting the same. It kind of seems like the Jets Breece Hall's got to kind of earn it in a way. Or maybe a guy like a Jahan Dotson coming off a big week and against not a great defense either. So there's an option too. Other than that, same usual lineup, same pieces. And in my final league, I had Eckler and Clyde Edwards-Helaire last night, which they got me combined 34.2 points. Eckler got me 18.4. Helaire got me 15.8. Two guys that played really well last night. Other than that, right now, because of Keenan Allen was out, right now I'm playing Tyler Boyd. I very well might change that. Devontae Smith is an interesting pick for me because I'm not panicking, but I was concerned last week against the Lions for him to get 4 targets and no catches. That was a little concerning to me. And I hope it's not the fact that it's all A.J. Brown and Goddard are swallowing all those catches up. I hope it's just, week 1 didn't have a connection with Hurts. I hope that's the case. At home now, maybe he can kind of get into a groove. I hope that's the case. We'll see. I might play him. I liked what I saw last week out of Boyd against Dallas. Again, I think the Bengals are going to get a lot of opportunities on offense because I think there's going to be a lot of short drives with the Cowboys because they just don't have the quarterback right now. I think the Bengals are going to get a lot of possessions. Boyd's a risky pick. He's risky, but he's got a high reward. He's not going to load up the stat sheet in terms of yards and catches. He had 4 catches and 33 yards last week, but he had a touchdown. That's the reason why he got 13 points. So he's not a guy that's going to get 6 catches for 120 yards and a touchdown. He's a guy that's going to get about 30, 40 yards, 4 or 5 catches, and if he scores, well, he hit the jackpot. If Tyler Boyd doesn't score, he's not very good in fantasy. That's the reality. If he scores, and I might sound like the old cliche, it's not. Other guys don't score and they have still good games. If Boyd doesn't score, he's a 7-8 point per game guy. If he scores, well, that's when he gets 13, 14 points, right? And you might say, oh, well, that's the case for any receiver. Not really. Devontae Adams, for example, last week, some of these guys put up 120 yards, 7 catches, and that's 19 points. They don't score, but they're just big-time receivers. So you see that a lot. Nick Chubb last week didn't have a touchdown, but he had 141 rushing yards, right, and 15 points. So you saw a lot of those things. So Boyd's one of those guys that are riskier, but is it possibly a year where he's high on the touchdowns? We'll see. We'll see there. So those are kind of what I'm going with. Defenses, I'm sticking with the Colts against Jacksonville. Again, I think they're going to force Lawrence into some mistakes. I know a lot of people like Denver against Houston, which I don't disagree with, but I'm rolling with Indy for this week. I think they got 7 points last week. There's no reason to drop them. Next, mine as well. Keep Indy. Next week they play Kansas City, so you drop them then, and you kind of move on. So that's it. You could go Denver. You could. I wouldn't disagree if you go Denver, but you also have to keep in mind Denver does have San Francisco next week, so. It's interesting. Defenses are always odd. I'm sticking with Colts. I just figured Jacksonville, it's not like they play Kansas City this week. Figured didn't have to. Also wanted to put in a waiver claim in one of my leagues for Wentz, and I didn't want to lose him if you put in 2. So that's what I'm rolling with. So big question this week is who you're playing at quarterback. In one of my leagues, I'm playing Wentz. The other 2, I'm playing Rodgers. And the other one, I'm playing Stafford. So those are my 4 lineups. That's the advice. Again, if you want any more, comment down below if you want a specific player. I'll be more than happy to talk. I know you might not want advice from a guy who's 0-4 right now, lost in all 4 of his leagues, but I'm always love talking about fantasy football. So that's kind of what I got in terms of advice and all that good stuff. Again, big things, Prescott. If you're still figuring it out and you want to comment down below, maybe 2 quarterbacks that you're looking at, I'll try to answer it the best I can and see where we go from there. So, anyway, now let's go to fantasy baseball. Then we'll wrap it up with the New York sports update. Fantasy baseball right now, I'm currently on a bye in my one league, so nothing really matters right now. I got scored 228 points, but I'm on a bye week. In my other league, I'm currently winning 506 to 381, so dominating there. And I got Taiwan Walker and Logan Webb on the mound today, so that's pretty good there. And as for the New York sports update in college football, because we got to get to that as well, In the world of baseball today, you got the Cubs Rockies going right now. You got Nationals Marlins. You got the Blue Jays Orioles, Rays Rangers, Red Sox Royals, Twins Guardians, White Sox Tigers, Phillies Braves, Astros A's, Reds Cardinals, Angels Mariners, Padres Diamondbacks, Dodgers Giants. So we'll go to the Mets here. 7:10 Eastern on picks tonight. Mets 90-55. Pirates 55-89. Pirates got Mitch Keller on the mound. He's 5-10 with a 4.01 ERA. And the Mets got Taijuan Walker on the mound. He's 11-4 with a 3.48 ERA. Over-under set at 7.5. Mets won the first game of the 4-game set. They'll look to win again today, which would set up the series win tomorrow and then set up the sweep on Sunday. Don't want to get too ahead of yourself, but we'll see how that game goes tonight. And as for the Yankees tonight, Yankees open up a 3-game set in Milwaukee against the Brewers, a little interleague action, a start of a 5-game interleague stretch for the Yankees. Yes, 5 straight interleague games. So they play 3 against Milwaukee, and then next week they'll play 2 against Pittsburgh Tuesday and Wednesday after their day off on Monday. So 5 straight interleague games for the Yankees after they just had multiple in-division matchups with teams like Tampa Bay, Toronto a little bit earlier than that, Boston and all that. So a little bit of interleague baseball today. Like I said, Yankees 87-56, Brewers 76-67, 8:10 Eastern Prime Video. Frankie Montez on the mound for the Yankees. He's 5-12 with a 3.89 ERA. And Adrian Hauser's on the mound for the Brewers. He is 6-9 with a 4.62 ERA. Over-under set at 8. We'll see how all that plays out. And to finish off this Football Friday podcast, why not finish it off with some football? College games on this week. Top 25 games. Michigan, UConn, Georgia, South Carolina, Oklahoma, Nebraska. Nebraska obviously fired head coach Scott Frost. You see if that ignites anything inside, under the team. I don't think they're going to beat Oklahoma. They are at home. We'll see. Interesting game. It's a possible trap game for Oklahoma. It is. Because Oklahoma's a good, obviously a very talented team. It's a possible trap game, though, because not that they play up against a really good team next week. They play against Kansas State. But Nebraska, they're at home, fresh off of firing their coach. That might not sound pleasant, but sometimes, a team sometimes comes out with a lot of energy the next game to try to prove that, to try to prove that, look, like, we got a new guy, we're believing in him, all that kind of stuff. So, that does get played into the part of it. So it will be interesting. I think Oklahoma will win, but don't completely forget about that game. It's interesting. Baylor, Texas State, Kentucky, Youngstown State. Really good games, Oregon, BYU this week. BYU coming fresh off an upset at home against Baylor. And Oregon fresh off a win after they got crushed opening week against Georgia. Oregon's 3.5-point favorites. This is a big win this is a big game for BYU. 2 back-to-back weeks against top 25 teams. They beat Baylor. Let's see what they can do on the road against Oregon. Interesting game there. Very exciting game there. Mississippi, you got Ole Miss and Georgia Tech. Very good game. Penn State, Auburn. That's going to be really good. Auburn at home. Penn State, 2 big wins to start the year, 1 on the road, and obviously they crushed Ohio at home, which was expected. Big game against Auburn there. Auburn obviously 2-0. Arguably 2 teams that are in the top 25. And Auburn's a good team. If they win this game, they'll most likely be in the top 25. Penn State cracked the top 25 at 22. Other games, Alabama, Louisiana, Monroe. That's a blowout. Wake Forest, Liberty, Tennessee, Akron, Oklahoma State, Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, Missouri State, NC State, Texas Tech, Ohio State, Toledo, Washington, Michigan State. That's a good game there, too. Washington, Michigan State is the nightcap. Very good game between those 2 teams. Western Michigan, Pitt, South Florida versus Florida, Texas versus UTSA, Utah, San Diego State, USC, Fresno State. So those are your games. The best ones, Washington, Michigan State's going to be a fun game. Penn State, Auburn's going to be good. BYU, Oregon. Oklahoma, Nebraska, just keep your eye out. It's probably going to be a blowout, but it is one of those games that it's interesting. It could get interesting, all I'm saying. Clemson, Louisiana Tech, and another very good game, Miami, Texas A&M. Nightcap, 9 Eastern, ESPN. So, a couple good games, week 2 of the college football season, or week 2, I guess. Or week 3, actually. Week 3. Can't believe I'm saying that. I'm getting my weeks mixed up. Week 3 of the college football season. So, a lot to look forward to. Enjoy your weekend. As always, Bub's Talking Baseball podcast will be up over the weekend on Sunday. And I'll have my Jets preview on In the Trenches with Gang Green tomorrow. And then my recap will obviously be after the game on Sunday. So look out for those if you're interested, both of those being on Apple Podcasts. And as for this podcast, you know the drill. I'll see you back here on Monday. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy all the sports. Enjoy the football. Enjoy the baseball. All that good stuff. And, I'll see you all back here on the flip side, back here on Monday. Hope you enjoyed it, and thanks for watching.